Hi everyone, welcome back to Government Minute. You know, a lot of times in our lives, we don't realize when a big historical event has happened until way after the fact. Well, something did happen about 4 years ago that is historical in a lot of ways. We're going to talk about that next when Government Minute starts right now. Hello Raindrops, welcome back to Government Minute, Minutes That Matter. This is Mr. Ray welcoming you back for another exciting edition of Government Minute. We thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the new subscribers that have come on board. We really appreciate it. Up to 300 now. I really appreciate that. Let's get it up to 365 by the end of the year, shall we? I know that's a tall order, but if anyone can do it, you can. Most of you that watch this channel are not subscribed, so I ask you to please subscribe. Click that subscribe button right now. You take care of that. I won't have to say it anymore. As always, this video is dedicated to the glory of God who blessed this land. I want to go back 4 years. Today, as I film, it's December 15th, 2024. I want to go back 4 years and a month and a half, and talk about something that is historical, but really didn't get the attention it should have, being how historical it was. We're going to talk about the 2020 election. Now, before I start, let me just say, what I'm about to talk about is possible. I don't know what happened exactly in the wee hours of the morning when votes showed up, when votes popped in for Joe Biden. It just seems suspect, and it's historical in a few ways that we're going to talk about here that I thought we need to review it, and maybe someone who can do a thorough examination will do. I hope it was 100% legitimate, because that is best for our country no matter who wins. So let's talk about some of these things, the historical things that happened in the 2020 election. Starting first with Joe Biden. Joe Biden was running against President Trump, who was running for re-election. Now, Joe Biden had run for president several times before. Joe Biden has never been exactly the most popular guy in the Democratic Party. However, in 2020, he ended up winning the primaries and winning the nomination for the Democrats, and he went on to face President Trump in Trump's re-election bid. Now, if you go back all the way to the year 2000, here are the vote totals, rounded of course, the vote totals for the Democratic nominee in every election since 2000. In 2000, Al Gore received 57 million votes. In 2004, John Kerry received 59 million votes. In 2008, President Obama received 69.5 million votes. That was huge. In 2012, Obama's re-election, he received 65.9 million votes. Excuse me, these are all millions of votes. 65.9 million votes. In 2016, Hillary Clinton, 65.8 million votes in her loss to President Trump. And 2020, Joe Biden, 81.3 million votes. 2024, Kamala Harris ended up with 75 million votes. So from 2000 to 2024, you have 57 to 81 million. The rest of them all pretty level, a little jump for Kamala, but a big jump for Joe Biden, even against the most popular recent president, Barack Obama, even higher than his vote total. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it's because people hated Trump so much. I'm sure there was some of that going on, but wasn't that going on in the race with Kamala Harris as well? Did people all of a sudden like Trump? Did Democrats and the people who hated Trump in 2020 not hate him as much this time? It's just amazing how Joe Biden received so many more votes, actually an anomaly. And so I'm not saying it's not possible. Doesn't seem very probable. Let's look at some other information about the election. First of all, there's some highly unusual voting patterns. Biden lost 18 of 19 bellwether counties. Bellwether counties spread out throughout the country. These counties have predicted the winner of the presidential race every time since 1980. So whoever won these bellwether counties ended up winning the presidency, at least until 2020. Biden got nearly 12 million more votes than Barack Obama did in 2008, yet he had fewer votes than Obama in 71% of the counties in this country. That's amazing. In almost 3/4 of the counties, he received fewer votes than Barack Obama, yet ended up with more votes, by 12 million more votes than Barack Obama. Doesn't seem to add up. All right, continuing on. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal called 27, this is the 2020 race, called 27 House of Representatives races, toss-ups. It is extremely rare for an incumbent president to win seats in the House and lose re-election. The Republicans reportedly won all 27 of these races, and yet President Trump did not win re-election. No presidential incumbent in the last 100 years has increased his vote and lost re-election. President Trump in 2016 had 62.9 million votes, and in 2020, 74.2 million. He increased his votes, yet still lost. Also, sudden increases in votes in the middle of the night in key swing states were found to favor Biden at improbable rates. Okay, obviously, if votes are found, no matter what time of the day, they're going to be split between Biden and, in this case, Biden and Trump. But the rates at which Biden received votes, the percentages was much higher and very improbable. Some states have more votes than people who voted. This series of highly unusual events raises the possibility that it wasn't just a series of coincidences, but something to be explained most probably by fraud. Again, I'm not saying it's fraud, it just seems very probable. Last bit of historical context for this 2020 election. 4 ways Joe Biden outperformed election norms. Obviously, over time, you see patterns of things. You see patterns of voting, patterns of voter engagement, voter interest. And so these norms develop over time, and Joe Biden outperformed. Number one, we talked about it, the 80 million votes. No incumbent president in nearly a century and a half gained votes in a re-election campaign and still lost. We talked about that, President Trump's totals from 2016 up in 2020 and still lost. Trump gained more than 10 million votes than his 2016 victory. Yet Biden not only overcame that, but also Trump's, at the time, record support among minorities. And then he shattered Barack Obama's vote total. Now, Barack Obama, whatever you think of his policies, whatever you think of the man himself, he was a rock star politically. He was new, he was fresh, he was young, he was African American, and this excited a lot of people. Joe Biden was old, white, gray, and not the most charismatic speaker.
Hey everyone, I'm Joe Biden's husband.
And yet Joe Biden outperformed Barack Obama. Highly unlikely. Joe Biden received more votes, record number of votes, while in the polling showing that he was trailing President Trump's enthusiasm among voters. And yet he ended up winning more. Biden lost Ohio and Florida, and yet those 2 states have been pretty much good indicators of who was going to win the presidency. These states have consistently predicted the national outcome. Biden lost those bellwether counties we talked about, the bellwether states, and still won the presidential election. Just doesn't seem all that likely. Furthermore, the Wall Street Journal and the Epoch Times analyzed the results of 19 counties around the United States that had nearly perfect presidential voting records over the last 40 years. Trump won every single one except one, and that was in Washington State, which is a blue state anyway. Bellwether counties overwhelmingly chose President Trump, but Biden found a way to win anyway. Again, we're comparing Biden's performance with norms, election norms that have been developed over the last 40, 50, 60 years. It's noteworthy that the norms that favored the incumbent, the challenger won. So the norms favored President Trump, and Joe Biden won. Donald Trump was pretty much the only incumbent president in U.S. history to lose his re-election while his own party gained seats in the House of Representatives. We talked about that already. It just doesn't happen. I guess it's possible, right? It is possible, but not probable. In 2020, the Cook Political Report in the New York Times rated 27 House seats as toss-ups, and again, the Republicans won the 27, and yet Joe Biden won the election. Finally, Biden overcame the norm of commanding primary votes. In the 2020 primaries, President Trump, of course, won the nomination for the Republicans, Joe Biden for the Democrats. No incumbent who has received 75% of the total primary vote has lost re-election. President Trump received 94% of the primary vote, which is the 4th highest of all time, higher than Eisenhower, Nixon, Clinton, or Obama, and lost. Trump is only one of 5 incumbents since 1912 to receive more than 90% of the primary vote. And finally, third, Trump set a record for most primary votes received by an incumbent when more than 18 million people turned out to vote for him in 2020. Now, I'm not saying there was fraud. I'm saying it's probable there was fraud. I'm saying this needs to be looked into, investigated, and if guilty parties are found, they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Why? Because without the confidence of a straight election, without the confidence of an honest election, the American people will lose confidence in our system, and that's not good for anyone. This means if Republicans are found cheating, they should be prosecuted. If Democrats are found cheating, they should be prosecuted. This has to happen. Countries that we consider third world can conduct an election and have the results completed within a day, maybe 2. Why was California counting votes a week after the election? This is unacceptable. This is not a way to run elections, and it needs to be cleaned up, and it needs to be cleaned up now. So I call on whoever is seeing this, whoever can get this to someone who can do something about it, to start the demand for election integrity. It matters to all of us, Democrat or Republican, so that we may continue to live in the greatest nation on God's green earth. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you paid attention, because there will be a test at the next election. This is Mr. A reminding you that we, the people, are the government. See you next time.